Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, or Mike if you prefer, and I got a review for you today. From Image Comics, we're going to be talking about Hexware issue number 5. It is written by Tim Seeley, art by Zulema, Scotto, Lavina. Then we got colors by Valentin, Cuomo, and letters by Maurizio, Clausi. I'm sorry if I mispronounced any of those names. It's no disrespect at all. Before we get started on the review, please like, comment, subscribe on this guy's channel. Just go ahead and hit that like as you enter the video. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free, I promise you. And plus that, it's the whole reason I'm on the YouTube, is to talk about these dope stories. So let's get into it, right? Let's talk about this dope story. So Hexware issue 5, to catch you up, we are talking about a Witchware, which is an android that has the ability to use magic. In the first issue, we were caught up with a little girl named Jesminder. She died during a bombing in this futuristic city, and now her soul has been put into this Witchware. The Witchware previously was like the maid of the household. Currently, to keep the soul in her body, she needs to track down these 5 different souls that have escaped hell, and she has been tracking them down. She got one, and then we've caught up with the other 4. Recently they were doing a deal where they grouped together to defend the city that they live in, finding out that there is this religious cult that is trying to take down the city. So at the very last issue, she was actually betrayed by the people that she grouped up with, Ogre, and some other people. We'll get there. But hopefully that's where we are right now. I highly suggest you read this series or watch my reviews if you don't have a chance to pick up the copies. I have reviewed every single issue. So anyways, let's get into it, right? So we are with Ren. Ren is basically Jesminder's best friend to the story, and also kind of like her conscience, It's touching base on something that I thought about since the second issue. Jesminder's parents are pretty rich and not famous or anything, but they live mid-level in the city. And her dad specifically works for the main guy who owns the city. So they are pretty wealthy. After Jesminder died, it was kind of like one of those thoughts, why didn't they take in Ren, especially with the loss of a child, stuff like that. It was her best friend. Ren spent a lot of time with them. Well, that's kind of what the story's doing right here. So Jesminder's parents that's basically what they're telling Ren. They don't do it right this second. They basically tell him, hey, we're going to take you on this vacation, up to High Garden, which is the top of the city of the rich. And that's kind of where they leave it. We do see this in the background, the Lycan. He's one of those souls that Jesminder's supposed to track down, but we see that he's kind of overhearing the conversation and hears the whole thing. So the very last issue, we saw that Jesminder got tricked, and she was actually sent to hell, but by Invictus, which is kind of the leader of the monster group or whatever. So we got to see a little bit of where she is, and now we're catching up with her. So instantly they state that Jesminder is here and the Witchware is here, and they're 2 entities. They are in hell. There's some talk between Jesminder and the Witchware about, she thought, hell was a hot place, but it stated in the different, volumes or Bibles, originally it was hell was a cold place. It was the farthest away from, the sun, which kind of represented God. And there are other religions that kind of feature the same thing, and the book kind of touches base on them, like Hindu and Buddhist religion. But from this guy, I think it's all about perspective. I think hell is, if it does exist, it's going to be one of those things where if you enjoy the cold, it's definitely going to be hot, and vice versa, and it's not going to be anything you like. So now that we are they are kind of confident that they are in hell, a lot of things kind of come up, and it's this conversation with Jesminder and the Witchware, because since they were 2 people made into one, they kind of share each other's lives, kind of thing. So the book jumps over and we go back to where the High Garden is, and it's basically where like all the food and everything, like fresh food, is made and processed, and there's other stuff. But they show us kind of a little bit because something ends up happening. But that conversation that I was talking about before with Jesminder's dad, he does bring it up about how they were kind of still grieving and stuff like that, and now they want to offer him a place to live, and not on the streets and the centra is what they call like the below levels or whatever. Before they can continue the conversation, you see in the background that someone creeps up, and it's one of these like religious cult guys that are actually trying to take down this city. And sure enough, they start bombing the place. Jesminder's dad, and I keep calling him that because I forget his name. I think it's like Cal or something like that. Yeah, but I'm bad with names, guys. Bad with names. But Jesminder's dad grabs Ren, and they run off, and they make it out before safety. The ambassador droids, as seen here, they're supposed to be protecting everybody, but they're quickly taken out by these religious-looking people, and there's some things that they say which don't make any sense, but like, oh, I can read you one, but it's like, the ones above it all, we told you didn't earn no heaven. And I did put he's got a cowboy hat on stuff, so I put that accent on him, because when I read, there are voices attached to it. So back in hell, Jesminder and the Witchware are making it through. They do come to a place where they do see other people that are like stuck at this river, and it's basically people that have they filled up too much in life, and they are overwhelmingly full and grotesque, and then they basically get stuck at this river because they're trying to like get rid of the reflection or something like that during this time. And they both recognize this sin, but it comes up with Jesminder like, well, I understand, and the Witchware states why she's here. She was envious of Jesminder's life. Even as crazy as that sounds, that's what brought the Witchware to hell. Jesminder had stated that she hadn't even really got to live her life yet, that she hadn't had sex or beers or drugs or anything like that, and she still ended up in hell. So she's kind of questioning a lot of different things. But as they get to this point, like right around here, she kind of is a little more honest with herself, and realizes that the reason, or not even realizes, but the reason she's here is because she had a choice during the bombing, like as she died, and she chose herself. Like, she had a chance to save Ren or some of the other kids. She might not have done anything, but at the same time, she still had the opportunity to do something, and she chose herself. So that's the sin, that got her in hell. As soon as this happens, this revelation happens, hell changes, and it turns into this like luscious looking paradise, but instantly it turns into something altogether differently, because there are lions, and it's basically like this, it states that now it's this creature after the creature thing. Are you the creature that's going to be on top type of thing? As soon as they see the tiger, Jesminder starts fighting the tiger for both of their lives. At this time when this happens, Jesminder kind of like, she's not shown, so I have to imagine they just link back up into one. They go back to our crazy incident at the towers with the religious people. We don't get a name on them or anything. They're just religious, cult freedom fighters, that kind of thing. But before they could do any more damage, our dude Lycan, the Lycan King, he shows up, and he states that he's there to protect Ren, that he has lived a long enough life, and he's tired of like gods and monsters playing with children's lives, so now he's going to make it a debt to protect all the different street kids that he can. And he knew something bad was coming, and so he chose up to show, to help Ren. And in this case he does. He ends up taking down quite a bit of the guys and goes after the main, the colorful looking fella that kind of entered. He does grab him, and it looks like Lycan King is going to kill him too, because he doesn't manage to kill a couple. But our, freedom fighter, whatever, cult guy ends up, activating a bomb, and they both go kablooey. And you can see that the religious guy is still talking, stating that, that unless God's got your back, you're going to end up like the werewolf kind of thing. But our Lycan King, he does end up perish. I mean, he's in like all kind of pieces. You know what I'm saying? We catch back over to Ren and Jesminder's dad, and they're basically trying to get people to safety, and they're heading down below. As they head down below, they realize that there are more bombs downstairs that the cultists like activated or whatever. At this point, the story jumps over to what Ogre and Invictus are doing, and they're somewhere else, maybe at the bottom. It's basically Invictus. She's about to kill these people and stuff. It doesn't end up happening because Ogre intervenes, but he basically states that they should be helping, the present, situation. But not only that, but it's because Ogre informs Invictus that King is dead. And she kind of asked, like, how does he know this? And he kind of, because Ogre has the ability to go male and female, he goes backwards to the female persona, and he states that he had one eye, like, left back in the spirit world just in case something happened to one of their crew. And sure enough, King does end up dying. The book jumps back over to Hell, and we see that Jesminder and the Witchware are traveling along, and they're trying to make it to that top where the fire is. As soon as they do, they notice that King is there, and he's fighting these other like ogre-looking people. And they don't even state who they are, kind of thing. It's just demons, or but he's tearing the crap out of him, kind of thing. At this time, there's another revelation that happens between. And it kind of has been the whole book, but it's really Jesminder finally coming to terms that they really just use the Witchware. They use the android just like a tool. They never appreciated her, what she did for the family, all the cleaning, the times they kept him, warm with the sweater, and that does play a part here. Even though Witchware does not have a sweater, she does still offer her bonnet. But right here, she finally, Jesminder states out loud that she appreciated what the Witchware had done for her whole life, and she felt sorry that she hadn't done this before, kind of thing. And with this being said, they finally do make it to the very top of the, hell with the fire, and we finally meet who they're going after, and it's the original. They never show him. They do in context bubbles, word bubbles, but basically it's I would imagine it's the devil or something like that. But it's the original demon or devil that made the deal with the Witchware that put Jesminder in his body. The book jumps back over briefly, and we do find out that bomb that they had set up wasn't just randomly put there. It was there to take out their food. We already know that the religious people are trying to take down the tower using certain weak points, stuff like that. So back over to Hell, it's stated that the whole reason that he put the Witchware in Jesminder in the Witchware body and agreed to the deal was because he states that he has these certain entities, like these demons, like Invictus and King and stuff like that he does allow to go to Earth, cause some chaos, and of course they end up dying and they come back. It's like a rinse and repeat kind of thing, and he just states that now that he has Jesminder and Witchware, that they're a part of that cycle too. They kind of give you an example of the, because basically as soon as the Lycan King made it back to Hell, he reverted back to his beast state and started doing the same thing that he was doing before. So, the very bottom of the book, we see that the devil or demon, he does allow Jesminder and Witchware to go back to Earth, because she still needs to do what he asked him to do to collect those spirits and repeat the cycle kind of thing. And he states that he's going to allow them to go back. We jump back over and we see that Invictus does show up, and she ends up helping Ren and the father. She ends up killing a couple of guys. Some ambassador droids show up and they end up shooting Invictus away by accident, not understanding that she's helping them. Over here we got Ren and Jesminder's dad, and they're trying to disarm the bomb, which they can't do, but they're still trying to do that. And As they do that, an ambassador droid comes up and states that Ren is from like the Centra and is not allowed where they are, and that he's about to get shot. As soon as that happens, we got this that happens, and it took me a second to realize who this is, but this is, and I'll have to look up his name, Jane Candy's the CEO, the one that everybody, the guy that owns the city. And Invictus states real quick that, you know, the only reason this guy looks like this is because he's been taking the medicine, and he does state that he's been taking the medicine, and he's going to die eventually, because he does. I didn't get that part. But he states that it's not, none of this is his plan, that they're basically after the weak points in the building to, you know, bring down the building. We get over here where at this point Witchware and Jesminder are supposed to be like leaving hell, and they're not. This is where Jane Candy does end up dying, and he kind of reveals that, you know, basically those guys are trying to destroy the weakness. At the very end, we get this thing where Jesminder and Witchware, and I'm just going to call her Jesminder because they're back as one, now that you see the witch costume or whatever. But they're just basically walking down this tunnel. They have some people down here that are like, hey, come on. We do get a visual of who these people are, and they're all kind of dressed up in like costume characters. Now, as John Candy's dying, he also mentions one other detail that leaves us on a cliffhanger, that the freedom fighters or cultists are not only going after the weak points, that they are trying to hack all the androids, hence the Witchwares, and that's their real master plan. That's where the book leaves us off. Like always, there is a cover preview to the next issue, but, you know, no details or anything like that. But that is this issue, and man, what a fantastic issue. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. It was so good. The story, the art, everything, especially the lettering, the word bubbling, because, you know, I mean, if we didn't have that, I'd be trying to figure out who's talking to Jesminder and stuff when she was in hell. But hey, that's my review. These are my thoughts. I'm loving it. I can't wait to see what happens next now that we know the androids are about to get hacked, especially because the Witchware is an android, so I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out. But it does show on the next cover that she's fighting those ambassador droids, so she might not get hacked or something, or maybe she has magical protection. I don't know. But that's my review. Those are my thoughts. Let me know down below what you thought of this book. And, you know, are you reading it? Are you loving it as much as I am? You know, what are you loving about it? For one, I love the art, man. The art is fantastic. I would love a black and white version of this book. You know, Zulema, if you listen it all the way to the end, black and white. All right, guys, that's my review. I'll see y'all later.